What's the deal with weightlifting belts? Many people use the soda can analogy when talking about weightlifting belts. With a belt, you're like a solid, unopened can that's able to withstand tons of external pressure and weight. And without a belt, you're like an empty can that will be crushed under the weight of your own ego. What do weightlifting belts actually do? Make you stronger, prevent injuries, and should you be using one? Before we get into belts, we need to talk about something called IAP, or intra-abdominal pressure. This sounds complex, but it's really just a measurement of the force that your trunk is producing internally. Whenever you lift, for example during squats, your trunk and core will automatically tighten up and increase your IAP on its own. One way we do this unconsciously is by regulating our breathing pattern, or even by holding our breath during a heavy lift. This causes pressure to stay high, giving our brain signals that the body is nice and stable and allowing us to produce a ton of force. And conversely, if our intra-abdominal pressure isn't high enough, our brains will literally stop our bodies from producing the same amount of force out of fear of instability. Now, I don't recommend trying this, but you can imagine this scenario. Imagine you're performing super heavy squats and you blow out all your air before coming back up. Your intra-abdominal pressure is going to be really low and you likely won't be able to complete the rep if it's really heavy. On the other hand, if you hold your breath during this difficult portion of the rep, or let out your air in a slow, controlled manner, you're gonna push with far more force. So what does this have to do with weightlifting belts? Well, we've known for a long time that weightlifting belts can help to increase your intra-abdominal pressure, which can help on heavy lifts. And this is great. You're usually able to lift more than usual and push your body a little bit harder while wearing a properly tightened belt. Now, I don't like this soda can analogy because it makes it seem like your body is gonna crumble if you don't wear a belt or brace your core properly. Will you be able to lift more with higher intra-abdominal pressure? Yes. But will your body be crushed like a fragile, empty soda can with lower pressure? No. Belts can help to increase your IAP, but they are certainly not needed to push your body hard or to make strength gains. But this isn't the end of the story. There are some potential pitfalls with these belts. The biggest one we see is a false sense of security. This is especially the case with newer lifters who slap on a weightlifting belt thinking that it will prevent them from getting hurt or getting injured. And this is exactly what I thought in my early days, so I wore one all the time. But a lifting belt isn't going to do much to prevent injuries, especially if you aren't thinking about things like load management, fatigue, etc. A belt gives you a good sense of stability and security, but you can still overload your body and push yourself too hard too soon. In fact, you might not even notice the extra pain or soreness until you take the belt off, because external pressure like a belt or a cast has a way of masking sensation. So bottom line, should you wear a belt or not? If you're a brand new beginner lifter, I'm gonna say no. You definitely don't need a belt, and you're probably better off building your foundation without one. If you're more of an intermediate, I'd say there probably still aren't a ton of great reasons to use one, unless you really find that your ability to brace or increase your own intra-abdominal pressure is limiting you, in which case you'd probably still be better off just intentionally working on your ability to brace. But if you're on the more advanced side of things and have been training for many years, there likely are some cases where you'd want to use a belt. If your strength is really plateauing or you're having a really hard time growing a certain muscle group, belts can be useful in these scenarios. Unless you fall into this category, you're probably better off saving your money while you master breathing and bracing techniques. Belts are one of those things that gets recommended to most people, even though only a small subset of lifters would actually benefit from them. And this might upset some of the old school lifters, but I would argue that barbell lifts fall into the same category. Almost everyone is told that they need to barbell lift if they want to make any progress in the gym, but I don't buy it. If you're interested, we made a full video on this topic here where I discuss why barbell lifts aren't necessary. We'll see you next video.